Hey guys, Smith City here for Smith City Product Reviews. First ever Essendon membership. This is coming off the loss against Hawthorn, but I'm happy to be a member. I'll open her up, give my review of what's in the pack, and we'll go from there. So, got two little things there. First year member. Got a lanyard there and an Essendon scarf. That's pretty much all that's in there. Was it supposed to come with a membership card? I'm not too sure. I thought it was. No, nothing else is in there, so that's it. Alright, so I'll give a little bit of thoughts on our first game against Hawthorn. We're playing some really inspiring footy. And look, I'm not going to tell how supporters should feel about the loss, because obviously we've been in this mediocre land for a very long time. But I think supporters should lower their expectations a little bit. The last 4 years have been quite frustrating because we've been in a position where media, our list, and maybe fans' expectations have been that we should be a top 4 to top 6 side. And there's probably been times where we have shown that in previous years in some games, and then we start to look like we're a bottom 4 side. The only difference is now we've gone into a completely different direction, and our average age list in our back line was 54.7 average games. So either people in their first or second season, or players that haven't had a lot of game time. And so I think the turning point of that Hawthorn game was when young Coxie got reported, and McGrath went in to fly the flag and you know, honour the jumper and shoved the Hawthorn player down, which I absolutely love. Just shows that there's a connection there with, you know, someone first year, first game, and an older player does that. It sort of shows the togetherness. Only thing is, they started to go on a bit of a roll in the third. Hawthorn started going a bit of a roll in the third quarter. Now, obviously, I went to the gym at half time, and I only got to see sort of little snippets of the game. So it's probably unfair for me to comment on how we went in the second half. But what I will say is, if you've got that many younger players coming in, and you've got a Hawthorn side that's probably where we were right now, they were probably where we were a couple of years ago, and they've got a lot of those first year players now in their third season or fourth season. So when a team starts coming back, you start to make poor decisions, you start to make errors, then they get compounded by a team with momentum and starting to claw the game back, and then you start getting in your own head where you start making some errors and some basic errors. Now, I would have liked Hooker to be thrown down back when they started to overrun us, and just to settle it down and maybe make some positional changes. But I absolutely think that Rutten is the best man for the job right now. He's going to learn a lot from that. And look, you can be quite disappointed as a supporter, because probably under Worsfold, we didn't really see lots of, from the surface of, obviously we're not in the sanctum, so you don't know what's going on a day-to-day basis. But in terms of what was going on from game to game, it felt like there wasn't a lot of changes, or there wasn't a lot of moves within games to either stop us from getting blown out, or keeping us in games to be able to give us a chance to win. And so, you know, from one game perspective, because to be honest, I don't really count what Rutten did last year as anything other than you've probably got one coach that coaches one way, you've got another coach that coaches a completely different way, and then you're trying to align players to play a certain way when you've got contradicting sort of stuff. And if you're not on the same page, you've got some young players maybe behaving or interacting or not understanding what's going on with the game plan. You know, I coach basketball, and if you don't have someone on the same page, especially if you're running plays and you've got structures around things, as soon as one or two players are moving in the wrong position in plays, it's game over. Like, the whole offense breaks down and you start going into damage control, maybe playing some jungle ball just on the fly, which, you know, if you've got a talented side, you can kind of probably get away with it, but not when you're a young side learning and adapting. So I believe in these boys. To be honest, I've lowered my expectations. I said at the start of the season that I'd be happy with 4 to 5 wins. Now, that isn't me being happy with being mediocre. It's just probably realising where we're at as a list. And I didn't necessarily buy membership to go to games just because of where my schedule is at the minute in terms of my business and that sort of stuff. But obviously, hopefully I can be a member for years and years to come. Because, yeah, obviously I've got my old school Bombers bandana thing going on with the old school logo. I used to draw this in primary school on little notebooks or pencil cases or folders and stuff like that. Back when we were, like, you know, the talk of the town and a team to sort of be feared and that sort of stuff. And at some point that wheel turns around and it's our turn again. And so, you know, be respectful, be respectful and be open-minded to nurture a lot of the younger boys as supporters. And so quite often, and this was me, like I did this a fair bit a few years ago, and like I was pretty disrespectful and quite rude on social media towards Brendan Goddard. And look, it's not my proudest moment. I actually reached out to him, and he actually reached out to me back on my personal Instagram account, because I sort of appreciated all that he had done at St Kilda and obviously what he had done through the whole saga, and which obviously, you know, you've come to a club to win a premiership and then the saga hits. And so, you know, he was really fantastic in that first year, and probably helped us and a lot of the younger blokes too, and a lot of the sort of maybe players that were VFL standard to come up and play their role for us in that circumstance. So look, it does get frustrating as a supporter, but at the same token, imagine your first game and you've made some errors, and then you get on social media and you see not just like one thing, but like 50,000 comments of people. Now, that personal young player, they may get themselves off social media because of that reason. Therefore, they might not be able to really sort of engage as best they can with family and friends because they're fearful of coming on to social media in case they're tagged in something, or because they've been abused by supporters that are frustrated and stuff like that. Or they do jump on and they see that and they keep looking at new comments, and that keeps sort of affecting their mental health to the point where when they are playing, they are second guessing themselves. And is that exactly what we want as supporters? For then a player to even go further down into that mindset where they are making more mistakes. And look, I'm not saying that we should be praising mediocre performances, and I'm not saying that we should all be positive when we're sort of expecting us to not have our lead blown and then beaten. But I can almost guarantee you, we probably wouldn't have got a 40-point lead yesterday. When we played Hawthorn a couple of years ago with our current list. And I can almost guarantee you we probably would have played sort of similar, maybe had a 20-point lead, but then the same stuff may have happened within the game and we probably end up losing by 60, 70, 80 points. And so whilst we lost a close game and it's quite frustrating, there was a lot of pleasing aspects to that. I absolutely loved Rutten's decision to play Stewart down back. Obviously, he's done his hamstring. I absolutely loved that move. Absolutely loved it. That was absolutely fantastic genius stroke by Rutten to play him there. Cox is an interesting one. He can play on the wing. He can play multiple positions. He's got a booming kick that sort of allows that you can actually hit a target 50, 60 metres down the field, which is absolutely fantastic. Which, you know, if we've got a lot of runners coming from the half back line or the opposite wing, you can actually do a lot of damage by having someone that's able to actually kick it that long and that accurate. I absolutely like Draper is arguably my favourite player. Him and Ridley, both my favourite players, are equal favourite. Ridley's just absolute perfect player. Like, if we could get a clone of 5 of them, I think we'd be doing well. But also Draper just has this energy and like aurora about him, where he just, not just the presence he has on the field with his own game, but like, he might be nowhere near the contest in terms of where we are in terms of a goal, but he'll come charging and like bear hug a player and like have a massive smile on his face. And that's the sort of stuff that we need as a club. And so, like, I absolutely love you, Draper and Ridley. And just hopefully we can sort of learn from this season. To be honest, I think we would be bottom 4 side, but that doesn't mean much really. Like, it just means that we're probably going to continue to rebuild through the draft. We do have some aging players, so it's not that we need a tank to get draft picks, but look at what Brisbane did 3 years ago, or probably 3 seasons ago now. They had a lot of like 10 to 15 to 20 point losses in that one season, but they would look competitive and they looked like they were building. And then all of a sudden they had a good off season. They had a couple of good signings. They got a new coach in Fagan, and all of a sudden they just started to build, and they obviously made the grand final last year. And so that's how things can quickly turn, and that's why I think a lot of supporters just need to be mindful and respectful of our younger core and our younger group, and not be as harsh as what they have been, and I've been guilty of it, of certain players in the past. And to understand that this season is completely different to how we are. Media and supporters and club and coaches probably felt like we were top 4 to top 6 side the last few seasons, but right now we're just in a rebuilding phase, and I'm going to be there for the ride. I'm going to enjoy every moment of it. And look, if we end up having a lot of brilliance like we did in the first 2 halves, and we end up losing a lot of close games, or if we start like we did in the 3rd and 4th, but then we have a surgence and we end up losing by a couple of points the opposite way, I'm just looking for growth. I'm looking for structure, game plan, making changes on the fly, and that's all I'm really concerned about with the club going forward this season. So hopefully I get to go to some games. This was supposed to be a quick review, but obviously then sort of went on a bit of a tangent like I normally do with my beer reviews. But I'll catch you on the next video, guys, and go Bombers. If I was supposed to get a membership card in the mail, I'd love to hear from other Essendon supporters of how memberships work, because this is the first time I've ever done it, so I have no idea. Cheers, guys.